Coach Whittingham, I can't help but think that it feels like this Utah team where it is right now today is very similar to where it was at this point last season. Some people, though, are counting you out, but obviously you got a big game against USC this week. Is that kind of what you're communicating to your team?
Exactly, and we had that exact conversation in our team meeting yesterday. That it's very reminiscent of last year and the circumstances that we found ourselves in last year. And we've got to respond. I mean, we're coming off a tough loss to UCLA. They're a really good football team. I mean, they're as advertised, very well deserving of their ranking. They're 6-0 for a reason, and so they played exceptionally well. We didn't play so well on defense. Got some work to do, but yeah, we got to we've been here, done that, and we've got to be able to respond this year as well.
When you look at just the matchups here, I always try to look at these key stats and everything and break down film as much as I can, but I'm no football coach. But in your rush defense, it's been great in all your wins. You only allowing 83 yards in your wins. In the losses, it's over 240 yards. What has been kind of the theme there? What has been the issues there in these losses?
Yeah, well, in the first game, front seven, our technique, our fundamentals, our tackling was just extremely shoddy. I mean, we just weren't our usual stingy run defense. Then we went for a stretch of 4 games, like you mentioned, where we played really lights out against the run. And then this past game, it was more we got big played. We missed some key tackles. We lost a few gaps, and they made us pay. I mean, when you look at the statistics from this past game, they had 500 yards, but only 22 first downs. That tells you there's a lot of big plays going on, and that's what did us in this past game was the big plays, and due to, like I said, missed tackles and a few blown assignments.
And kickoff coverage struggled a little bit against UCLA, gave them really great field position at least 3 times. Has that been an issue for most of the season? Was that just a one-game thing? How much you trying to look at that here going to USC?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's been a recurring theme this season, and we've worked long and hard to try to get that addressed. We'll continue to work at it, and got to get it fixed because, like you said, it did set up UCLA in good field position several times, as well as some other opponents this year. And so, that's an area that is of great concern, and that we're working diligently to try to correct.
Cam Rising, your quarterback's been fantastic last year and helping you win 9 of your last 10 games. The Rose Bowl game always sticks out, but that USC game last year, you had a career best performance, over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns total. How important is he to your team? One, and then secondly, how would you evaluate how he's been here almost here to the midway point of the season?
Well, Cam is our leader. He's the leader of the leaders, and everybody looks to him. His value cannot be overstated on or off the field. I mean, he's the catalyst for what we do offensively. He sets the bar for everything we do. Work habit wise, weight room, you name it. He's the guy that's leading the charge. He's having an exceptional year, just like he did last year. I think right now he's number 7 in the country in QBR, which in my estimation is the best barometer of how your quarterback's playing. And he's the guy. He makes us go, and as Cam goes, so go the Utes, and he's been very good the last year and a half.
I wanted to hit some big picture stuff just because I think a lot of people know of you and, of course, have followed you, but it's kind of quite amazing, especially when we look at college football the last 5 years, how much has changed, how you've been able to be consistent, and not just consistent, but be a championship winner. This is your 18th year. You've won a Pac-12 championship just this past season. 3 of the last 4 years you've won, a Pac-12 South Division title, which obviously divisions are now gone. You've had 22 NFL draft picks since 2017. You're 11-4 in your career in bowl games. You've won 147 games. And then you go into this USC game with an 11-game home winning streak, and you're 22-1 since 2018 in Salt Lake City. So this is a general question. I wish you could get into some type of detail, maybe even an anecdote. How have you been able to make it this consistent for this many years, especially in the Pac-12?
In a word, recruiting. That's what college football is all about. And all the credit goes to our assistant coaches. They're the ones on the front lines that are out evaluating the talent, deciding who we're going to bring into the program as far as visitations and so forth. I obviously look at every film and get to know each recruit that we're on, but the assistant coaches have done a great job of year after year upgrading our roster, and our 1 through 85 roster, I believe right now is the best it's ever been. And that is really what it boils down to. Recruiting is going to be 80% of your success or lack thereof is tied to recruiting.
And everybody does it different ways. And the USC, which you host this week, I think they've got 33 players on their roster that didn't even initially sign with them. 26 transferred in this past year. And then, of course, your team, I think you only signed 5 transfers this past off season. Everybody, I mean, different strokes, different folks. I guess it's kind of like the two opposite ends of the spectrum. And when we talk about how teams are built going into this game, do you see that continuing in college football, where people can do things certain ways or different ways and still be very successful?
Absolutely. And I think the trend is going to be for more roster turnover each year. And the real catalyst for that is when the NC2A did away with the 25 initial limit in any particular year. That opened the floodgates to manipulate and turn your roster over as much as you see fit. I mean, before, when you only had 25 initials each year, if you lost a bunch of guys, you could only replace them with 25 guys, and we're never going to never or very infrequently get to that 85 scholarship limit. But now that the 85 limit is the only thing you're up against with the transfer portal, it's really, you're going to see teams turn over 50% of their roster some years, and I don't think that's going to go away. I think that's going to trend more in that direction, and then you add NIL in, which is the wild card to the whole thing. The rich are going to get richer. I can tell you that right now. That's just how it's going to be. And you need a tight end. You just go shopping for one. I mean, that's essentially what it boils down to. And unless the rules change or they do something to get some sort of different structure, that's where things are heading.
How do you think Utah fits into that? Can you kind of continue with the way you've been doing things? Do you adjust?
Well,
Best
we
of both
used to
worlds?
pride ourselves on outworking people and being better evaluators and that type of thing. But that's going to take a back seat to, okay, team B has, X amount of NIL money for every, for per year. And where do you guys? And so really what I think is going to happen is the teams in the country that have the biggest NIL budget all the way down to whatever, the top 25 is going to pretty well mirror that. And it already does to a certain extent, but I think it's going to be even more pronounced. Just the haves that have the NIL and the collectives and the 30 or 40 million bucks sitting around to not only take care of the incoming recruits, but take care of the people on your own roster, because people are trying to poach those guys all the time. So it's a different ball game. I don't like it, but it is, the way that things have evolved to, and I don't see it changing.
Yeah, I mean, Utah is a top 25 program, and like I said, you've been consistent through all these years. Are you able to consider everything that's going on that's new with NIL and be able to keep it in that realm? Do you feel like Utah's in a good spot?
Well, we got to ramp up our NIL stuff. I tell you right now, we're a little bit behind, and we've got to make some progress in that area. And hopefully we can get that going and get a little more resources. But right now it's going to be challenging.
I ask a lot of coaches this, and I rarely, because there's just not many coaches besides Mike Gundy and yourself that stay at one school for so long. And I ask coaches about who they admire and everything, but I talk a lot of assistant coaches who are either getting out of the game because they're getting burned out because the recruiting calendar is just crazy and the coaching and then the demand and everything. And you just keep chugging along. And it seems like just because of what you've done the last 4 or 5 years, you seem to be doing the best you've done as a coach, which you might not be able to reflect on yourself in the moment right now and say, yeah, that's true, but because you're working every day. But do you want to just keep coaching into your 80s? Do you want to do that, or what? I mean, how do you see this kind of unfolding for you over the next few years?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've been asked that. The more years that go by, the more that comes up. I'm 62 years old, so I'm not getting any younger, but still 62. And the big picture is probably not that old, but I guarantee I won't be coaching to my 80s or my 70s. That's not that's not the vision I have. But the best thing I can tell you is right now I'm taking it year by year, and as long as I'm passionate and eager to come to work every day and loving what I'm doing, I'll keep doing it. But as soon as that changes, I've got 8 grandkids. The oldest one is 6 years old. So there's a lot of other things in my life that when that time does come to to call it good, I think I'll have a lot of things that I'll be able to do in retirement.
Well, you still have a lot more to accomplish as a football coach. My last question. Um, Is there anybody in the coaching industry, doesn't matter what level they're on, that you really kind of admire, that you every time they speak or they even do a coaching session of some sort at one of these conventions, that you always make sure to listen to?
Oh, absolutely. You talk Andy Reid. Me and Andy are old teammates. We played together in college, and he's a very close friend of mine, and have gotten a lot of advice from him through the years. Urban Meyer, who I worked for here, he was the head coach here at Utah for 2 years. I was his defensive coordinator, and really, that was 2 years of the best training you could have got to become a head coach, as far as just a master plan and a meticulous organizer and a detailed guy. That was you know, as beneficial to me as anything could have been. Chris Peterson, the coach at the coach at Washington and Boise. I mean, he is, in my mind, a phenomenal coach. I don't know if he's going to get back in it. If he does, he'll be wildly successful. But Chris is a guy that I've really admired and looked up to for a number of years.
Well, Coach Whittingham, I know you're on a tight schedule again. I've long admired you. It's a pleasure and an absolute privilege to be able to speak to you today, and I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me on. Appreciate that.